Hey folks, Eric the Old Jarhead here. I figured I'd just jump right into this one because it's a big old boy. This guy's 20 feet long. I actually don't remember the diameter now. I think it was 26 inches or something like that. So, big log. And the customer wanted 2x12s out of it. So, we're going to make some 20-foot 2x12s, and I'll tell you what, they're going to get their workout today. The first thing you might have noticed is we had to use the forks to push that log back down the mill a little bit. One thing with these big 20 footers is they're not as easy to maneuver on the ground, even with just with a couple cant hooks. And if you don't have quite enough room to twist them a little bit and convince them to come in on a diagonal to move down the mill, you might need some heavy equipment to move them around, or you can sometimes use a chain on the side supports. I actually tried that trick and it would not budge this log. I was really surprised. So it's a big heavy log. I mean, you're talking 20 feet long here. One thing about 20-foot logs is you have to make sure that they're inside the cutting length of the mill. There are two black marks on the mill deck. One of them, well, I think they're both reasonably visible still on my mill, and older mills they're going to be gone. The reality is that you only have so much you can cut. And these mills are rated around 21 feet, and boy, I tell you, if you're doing a 21 footer, you got to be in those marks, and these things can hurt. The customers did not get hurt in the making of this video. So we're going to get at it here, and I got to be honest with you, this was a video that was a bit challenging for me to make and keep my time down for you. I like to try to keep my videos in the 8 to 12 minutes for you. Short, sweet, and to the point is kind of the theme that I've really been working on a lot for you lately. So hopefully you'll stick with me in this one. It's a little longer, but then again, I'm milling a 20 footer, so this isn't this isn't just a little 8-foot 15-inch log or something like that, right? We're talking a big log here that's not maxing out the mill, but boy, it's getting up there in size. And out here on the west coast, we got these big Doug Firs, and this ain't a big one even. And it's actually the third log up the tree. You can see the first two in the foreground. The butt log has a big angle cut on it. That guy was 32 inches, and we're going to quarter saw it. And then the next log in is the log at the end of that one, and of course the one on the deck is log number 3. So it's a good sized tree. It's not as big as a Doug Fir can get, let me tell you. But out here on the west coast, we got some big wood. So anyway, the thing about this one is kind of funny. I'm always talking about rolling 90 degrees into the side supports, and this big log, I actually wasn't able to get that done. And the reason is sometimes when you make that roll on these big logs, it's actually hard to see if you're 90 degrees to the deck. In other words, it's really hard, even if you open, say you open a 6 to 8 inch face, which is kind of ideal, right? Because you're going to make some 1-bys too. The customer wanted 1-bys. So you don't want to dive right down to a 12-inch face, right? You want to try to get as much lumber as you can out of the log. So when I made that first roll, I couldn't actually get the flat part of the face against the side supports. They were just, it was too high up, too big of a log. So, those side supports are almost 12 inches tall. And my flat surface on that log started at about 10 inches. And you really need a good 6+ inches of flat surface against the side supports. So this is the exception to the rule of going 90 degrees straight into the side supports. In this case, I had to roll it 180 degrees, come down flat, and take some more off of it. And so you can see, I went 180, jammed her into the side supports, and had it nice and flat on the deck, and then took some off the top. And as you go through the video, you'll notice that I take some off, and then I'm going to roll it around, take some more. And in essence, what you've got to do on these bigger logs is you got to kind of whittle them down. They don't, you can't just wham bam, thank you ma'am, put them into a can.
not gonna what?
Yeah, alright. Get this guy out.
That's some pretty wood though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay. Grab this, Alex. Let's get this out of the way.
I was wondering about that. I'm like, the round ones go down the hill.
Oh gosh, these poor customers, you know, they had to work hard. Sometimes people don't realize when you call for 2x12s that even the 1x12s that are 20 feet long, when they're green, they're going to be heavy. So these folks were working hard that weekend, but you know, we all were. We were all pretty beat by the end of that weekend. Talk about a beautiful setting. Isn't that gorgeous? Had a nice breeze on this log. It was coming across me and pushing the sawdust for the most part away from me, so that was kind of nice. I'm just trying to get this sucker down to a nice cant that I can work with. And since they want 2x12s and it's so big, I'm going to have to actually take some 2x12 flitch cuts. So I'll start with 1x's, take a few 1x flitch cuts out. They wanted as much 1x material as they could get. And then when I'm getting down there, I'll switch to 2x's, and they were going for full dimension. So we've got the simple set at 2 1/8 of an inch. That way we're left with a full 2-inch cut. So if you're trying to make a 12-inch cant, then obviously, you know, you got to think about that. If you're going to make one flitch cut, you got to come to 14 1/8. That way with your simple set at 2 1/8, when you drop her down, it's going to set right on 12 inches. If you take 2, then of course, you know, you got to add another 8. But you can see here, I'm working on that 2x now. You'll notice on the underside, I'm going to have to flip this guy over and take the cut out of that side too. I like to try to keep it pretty even. That way I can keep the pith fairly centered in the log. And then as I work my way down, you really want that pith offset just a little bit so that you don't split it, right? Ideally, you try to set yourself up so that as you're coming down the log on your simple set, you'll miss that pith without having to adjust. And let me tell you, those were heavy. I got a workout, lost a few pounds, just pushing them off the cant right there. Whew, man, that was tough work. Sometimes I almost couldn't budge the cap cuts. They were so heavy. So here we go. We're going to roll it up. Boom. Roll it again. There we go. Now we can take another cap cut out. We're just trying to work down to that 12-inch cant. We're probably, oh gosh, you know, about 18 inches deep on that sucker. So it's really hard to see in the video just how big that is. You know, you can kind of get an idea as you're looking at the position on the bunk, but these are big 2x's that I'm pulling off of here on these cap cuts. Now this log took just over an hour, I think about an hour and 15 minutes, and it yielded a lot. I actually can't quite remember how much. I'm going to say it was something like 600 board feet. Nice and breezy, just pushing that sawdust away from me. Always love it when that happens. Back on it, fire it up, get things adjusted. Now the other thing on these big wide cuts, you'll notice that I'm adjusting the speed control as I enter the log. You'll see me enter a lot of times at full milling speed, but only on narrower cuts where it's not such a heavy impact on the band and the mill itself. You know, if I'm milling 1x6s or 1x8s, I got no problem coming in at full milling speed. But if you try to enter an 18-inch or bigger, then you're putting a lot of pressure on the mill. So you dial it back a few degrees and come in just a little bit slower. You're gonna get a little chatter on entry. Anytime you're going slow into the log, the band chatters a little bit as soon as it gets into the wood, and so that first inch or two you can see some chatter on it. However, you got to also remember you're asking that band to immediately start cutting 18 to 24 inches or something like that. That's too wide, too big to come at full speed ahead. There's no damn the torpedoes here full speed ahead. I think that's what takes out bearings and guide wheels and all kinds of things, and just puts so much tension on things. So we dial her back a little bit and then ramp it up as we go. On these big guys like this, you can still mill around 10 o'clock on the dial. When they're a bit narrower, 10:30, maybe even a little faster, but generally about 10 or so on the dial. You're slowing down a little bit when you're getting into the big wood. And you're in the cut a long time. So you're working the water, you're watching the tension. There's two things that are going to happen on that tension. It's either going to go up or it's going to go down. And I'll tell you what, on a long cut like this, you can see it do both. You know, when you first get into the wood, it starts to go down a little bit because the band's getting hot. And, you know, maybe you turn up the water a little bit and then it builds up dust on the band wheels. And as it builds up dust on the band wheels, tension increases. So there are times that you'll see that I'm kind of going back and either I'm backing off the tension a little bit or I'm increasing it a little bit. I always try to keep my tension in that 2,800 to 3,000 PSI range. I tend to err on the side of 3,000, but when you build up sawdust on the band wheels, that can go up above that 33, 34, 3,500 pounds in one cut. Not much you can do about it. Now, I personally don't adjust the band tension while the band is running. I think that's what Wood Mizer told me years ago. I honestly don't remember. So I always shut it down, adjust the tension, and then move on. So drop in the comments. Let me know. Do you adjust the band tension while the band is in the wood, full throttle going down the road? Do you adjust your band tension then? Or do you, like me, wait, shut it down, adjust the tension, and then fire it back up again? So put it in the comments. Let me know. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that. Especially if you got about 1,500 to 15,000 hours on your mill, and so you got lots of production under your belt, and you've been through some bad bearings and things. I'd like to know. Hint, in a future video, you may hear about something. So we got those flitch cuts out. You know, we got some 1x, some 2x. We're trying to get this cant down. You got some 2x12s coming off of there. And boy, again, those poor customers, those things are just so heavy. You know, 2x12 20s that are wet. That's a workout. So we got it set up. I'm flipping the cant here, trying to get it positioned a little differently. You know, it's not uncommon to see me flip it 180 degrees once I'm into the cant. You know, I'm just watching stress, watching the wing, that kind of thing. Just trying to keep track of what's going on. Maybe I feel a little bit of stress popping on the ends or something, you know, lifting or diving. And on these 20 footers, you know, they're so heavy. There aren't bunk supports out that far in the wood. And so you'll notice right there at the end, it sticks out quite a ways past that bunk. You can actually get some flex out there. So one of the things you got to realize, we are milling rough sawn lumber. This isn't surface floor sized kiln dried like you buy at the big box store. These are green rough sawn boards right here. So it's important to know that, especially as a customer, but also as a sawyer. You know, you get out there on your mill and you're trying to make perfect lumber. And I will tell you, you always hear me say it, I want to produce the best possible lumber I can for my customers, absolutely every time. But you know, you're producing the best possible rough sawn lumber. And that is very important. gorgeous environment, absolutely beautiful environment. And how about those stairs? Oh, those were amazing. But we got it done. It took a while, you know, we were hard at it for just over an hour. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. As always, hit like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And if you don't, well, you never know. I might put some yoga pants on. See if I can get you to do it. Ha! You don't want to see that. Trust me. The old jarhead out.